Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about this quiet but massive revolution that's been happening in the world of data. It's a fundamental shift, really, moving from a method that's been around for about 50 years to something brand new, built for the cloud. So let's dive right in. It all really starts with this one critical question. Think about it. We are swimming in data. It's coming from every app, every website, every single customer interaction. So why are so many companies still relying on a data pipeline that was designed back in the 1970s, a time when storing data was incredibly expensive and difficult? Well, the simple answer is that old system is breaking. It just can't keep up. And this is where we meet the old guard. It's a process called ETL. For decades, I mean decades, it was the undisputed champion of data integration. But as you're about to see, the pressures of the modern world are really starting to show its cracks. So what is ETL exactly? Well, it stands for Extract, Transform, and Load. And the process is pretty much what it sounds like. First, you pull data from all your sources, then you clean it and reshape it in some kind of separate staging area, and only then do you load that finished, polished data into your warehouse. The key thing to remember here is the sequence. All the heavy lifting, all the transformation happens before the data gets loaded. Okay, so let's walk through this flow. First, you extract data from, your databases, your marketing tools, whatever. Then comes that critical transform step. This happens in a completely separate processing engine. This is where all the business logic gets applied, you clean up messy fields, you get it all ready for analysis. And finally, you load that finished product into the warehouse. It's a very rigid, sequential process. This quote from DBT Labs, it just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures what the old ETL world felt like. Data people really did feel like data archaeologists because the transformations were so rigid and happened so early. If you needed to figure out where a number came from, you had to go on this huge digital dig. It was slow, it was brittle, and frankly, it just stifled innovation. But then, well, the cloud happened, and that changed absolutely everything. It gave us these incredibly powerful, scalable data warehouses and super cheap, nearly infinite storage. And this new reality, it paved the way for a totally modern approach, ELT. ELT stands for Extract, Load, Transform. See what happened there? The T and the L are flipped. Instead of transforming data beforehand, you load the raw, untouched data directly into your cloud data warehouse first. All the cleaning, all the joining, all the modeling, that transformation stuff, it all happens inside the warehouse, using its massive computational power. So, the new flow looks a little something like this. You still extract data from all your sources, of course, but then you immediately load that raw data right into your warehouse. Nothing gets thrown away, you keep that original record perfectly preserved. And only then, once all that data is safe and sound, do you transform it into useful models for your analysis. Now, this seems like a simple change, but believe me, it has some profound implications. So what really created the perfect storm for this shift to ELT? Well, a few things. First, cloud storage became practically limitless and really affordable. Second, cloud warehouses like Snowflake and BigQuery brought this incredible processing power to the table. We also saw all these new kinds of data like JSON files and logs, which really fit this load now, transform later model. And finally, businesses just needed to move faster, and ELT delivers by giving analysts that raw data to work with almost immediately. All right, we've met the two contenders. Now it's time for the ultimate showdown. Let's really put them side by side to understand the trade-offs and see where each one shines. This table breaks it down perfectly. With ELT, you're loading raw data, so ingestion is super fast. Your flexibility is way higher because if your business logic changes, no problem. You just rerun the transformation on the raw data you already have. And this leads to a really key difference. ETL is what we call schema on write. That means you have to design the perfect blueprint for your data before you can even store it. ELT is schema on read. You just store all the raw materials first and then decide on the blueprint later. It's so much more flexible. Okay, so with all that, you're probably thinking, is ETL totally dead? And the answer is, not quite. It still has its place. For industries like finance or healthcare with really strict compliance rules, you might need to clean or anonymize data before it even touches your warehouse. That's where ETL still shines. But for most modern, cloud-based businesses that need speed and flexibility, ELT is the clear winner, hands down. All right, so we get the why and the what. Now for the fun part. Let's pop the hood and take a look at the how. What does the architecture of a modern ELT pipeline actually look like in the real world? A modern ELT pipeline has its own sort of dream team of tools. At the heart of it, you've got a cloud data warehouse, something like Snowflake or BigQuery, providing all the storage and computing muscle. Then, for the T, the transformation, that's often handled by a tool like dbt, which lets analysts build data models with simple SQL. And the whole thing, from start to finish, is usually scheduled and monitored by an orchestrator like Airflow. So inside that big warehouse, smart teams usually organize things in layers. It all starts with the raw zone. This is where your data lands right after extraction, and it's completely 100% unchanged. Think of it as a perfect auditable copy of your source data that you can always go back to. Next up is the staging zone. This is where you do some light foundational cleanup. Think of it like basic housekeeping for your data. Renaming columns to be consistent, making sure numbers are actually numbers, that kind of thing. You're not applying any complex business rules just yet. You're just tidying up the place. And finally, you get to the curated zone. Now this is where the magic happens. This is where all that raw data gets turned into gold. You apply your complex business logic, you join custom data with sales data, you calculate key metrics, and you produce these clean, reliable data sets that power every single dashboard and report in the company. You know, when you really step back and look at it, this whole shift from ETL to ELT, it's more than just a technical change. It's a philosophical one. It's really about unleashing the full potential of your data and empowering the people who work with it every single day. And honestly, this might be the biggest game changer of all. By managing transformations as code, you can bring all the discipline of software engineering over to analytics. We're talking version control, automated testing, reliable deployments, the whole shebang. It completely elevates the job from being a data archaeologist to being a modern analytics engineer who builds robust, scalable data products. So, if you're going to remember anything from all this, let it be these 4 things. What does ELT really get you? You get speed, because your data is ready for analysis almost instantly. You get flexibility, because you can always reshape your data for new questions. You get scalability by tapping into the near infinite power of the cloud. And you get auditability, because that original raw data is never, ever lost. So I'll leave you with this one final thought. Your data is talking, constantly. It's whispering secrets, showing you patterns you haven't even thought of yet. The real question you have to ask yourself is this: is your system actually agile enough to listen?